Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm finally filming a video that I've wanted to do for such a long time. It is my high school story time, and you're probably like, why do we need a high school story time? High school is high school. I didn't have your typical high school experience, so I kind of wanted to talk about that. Notes because I couldn't remember everything. I literally had to ask my mom about some things because I could not remember it because I think I just like blocked it out. So let's jump right into it. I also want to acknowledge the fact that my hair is kind of wet because, well, I just washed it, that's why, but normally I would wait till it's dry, but I need to get this done and I need to go somewhere. So anyway, obviously my school issues did not all of a sudden in high school. They started in elementary school, and I don't think I realized that until I was out of high school that I was having issues back then. Just to give a little background, kindergarten through like 3rd grade, perfect. And then it's kind of funny because it's a little ridiculous, but kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers were all like fresh out of college, like brand new, very eager to teach. Like they had that typical like elementary school teacher voice. You know what I'm talking about. And then 4th grade happened, and 5th grade I was back to having a great teacher. 5th grade was my favorite teacher of literally all time. Literally. And her and my 3rd grade teacher were my favorite teachers ever. Yeah, 4th grade was a different story. I had a teacher all of a sudden who had been a teacher for a minute, and there's nothing wrong with teachers that are older. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think that her approach was a little rough, I guess. And I mean, she was a take no shit kind of teacher. And what's funny is I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do anything bad. It was seeing her get mad at the kids who should have been getting in trouble because they were messing around and stuff. But it, like, I remember my best friend and I left school that day and her mom picked us up and we were so upset. We're like, she yelled at kids on the first day. It was so bad. And it was this whole thing. Yeah, so it was a lot. But I know I'm like kind of laughing through that because I think it's kind of funny at this point, but I do think that 4th grade, and I don't want to put the blame on my teacher because it wasn't her fault. I think it was just like a really shitty coincidence. Like everything happened at once. So I had her and I was 10, so like things were, you know, changing, I guess. And that was the first year looking back that I think I dealt with being depressed. And obviously, I mean, I was 10, so I didn't know at the time that that's what was going on. I just remember I used to take a bath every night, and I don't mean a bath like just to clean myself because I at that point was showering. Like I wasn't a little kid taking a bath anymore. It was just like I remember taking a bath every night and like refilling the tub so that it would, because it would like completely cool down. That's how long I was in there. I remember watching Roseanne on my little like portable DVD player, and yeah. And I think that was the first year that I started going to a therapist, and I went to her for a while, and I guess it got better and I was fine because that's all I remember about that. So yeah, and then 5th grade, like I said, I had another great teacher and things were pretty much good. But I was dealing with anxiety and not wanting to go to school. There was nothing about school that made me anxious. I wasn't getting bullied. I wasn't having a hard time learning. I just didn't want to be there. And once I was there, I was fine. It was the getting up and getting to school thing that was like a lot for me. And it sounds crazy, but I had a really hard time with that. And that's where my anxiety was definitely centered, was getting to school. So 5th grade was really the first year that I started like being late for school a lot. And then middle school came around and I was late for school every day. I had zero motivation in the mornings. I think I felt like everyone noticed when I was late, and I feel like everyone cared. Like no one gives a shit.
Like no one cares.
Like no one cares. But yeah, I was late for school a lot. Another thing that happened in middle school was that I had my best friend that I had since kindergarten, and we were always in the same class. And our families are close, and luckily our families still see each other and we're still friends and stuff like that. But those like middle school years, I think the fact that all of a sudden I didn't have my best friend who I'd had in every class with me, I didn't have her in any of my classes because when we got to middle school they separated us. Like we had different teams. We had red team, white team, blue team. We were Patriots, hence the color scheme. Anyway, and they did that because we had 3 elementary schools feeding into this one middle school. And so they wanted us to like meet new kids, right? And we were on separate teams. and we were on separate teams each year. So obviously we had different friends, we didn't see each other, and I think that affected me. I don't think that I realized it at the time, but I think I really missed that friendship. Luckily we're still in each other's lives, so it's like it's not that dramatic, but I think that was definitely a factor. I won't stick in middle school for too long because that could be a whole nother video. But I will tell you one story that really sticks out to me that still to this day kind of bothers me. The fact that I still think about it, and it happened 12 years ago. 12 years ago. Whoa. I was in 8th grade 12 years ago. That's crazy. So yeah, it's still something that I think about, which is so crazy, but I think it was like such an embarrassing thing that happened that it's just sticking in my head. So like I said, I was late for school a lot, and then middle school I started, because you're in different classes, I would like miss my first class and then go into my second, or miss my first 2 and go into my third, or whatever. And my third class in 8th grade was my history class, and my teacher was a little rough around the edges. She was a lot. She was loud. She was a lot. And I get to school. I missed my first 2 classes. I get to school and I just missed the bell. So I have to go get a pass, which I hated having to do that because it's embarrassing. You get a pass, you go in, you have to get your teacher, everyone's looking at you. It's like horrible. So I get my pass, go to my locker, get my stuff. I go upstairs and I walk in, and of course she's in the middle of giving a lesson, and she was sitting in the middle of the class at the projector, because this was a while ago and we didn't have smart boards yet. She was sitting at her projector, and our desks were situated so it was like rows of 3 like facing inward towards her. Of course my desk is right by where she's sitting, and so I walk in and I turn and I looked at her and I was like gonna give her my pass, and she looks at me and she goes,
"Are you kidding?"
And I was like, trying to like keep it together and not run out of the room crying, because that's really what I wanted to do, but then that would also draw attention to myself, so like I couldn't do that. And I just gave her the pass, and she kind of like at me, and I sat down, and I think I remember I had a friend across from me sitting at her desk, and she was kind of looking at me like it was something. And I remember sitting there, and a guy that was like catty corner to me, who you would never think would do something like this, he was like cooler, you know, which in middle school, what does that even mean? And he like taps me on the shoulder, and he had his notebook, and he goes, "Here." And he was giving me his notes that I had missed so that I could copy them. It's like such a small thing, but like in that moment I was so humiliated, and to have this guy like do that, it was so sweet. So I'll leave you with that in middle school, and let's jump into
High school.
Okay, so jumping into high school. Started off pretty good, I think. I don't really remember if it was ever good. Started off pretty good. I went to a really big high school. Like I said, my middle school had 3 elementary schools feeding into it, and so did all of the other middle schools in our district. And then 2 middle schools fed into our high school. So it was 6 elementary schools feeding into the high, you know what I'm saying? And I think I had 400 kids in my class, which hindsight, I should have gone to a smaller school, a way smaller school. I think I just felt lost, but I also felt like everyone noticed when I was like absent. Like they didn't notice when I was there, so like why would they notice when I was absent from school? Yeah, so same kind of habits started again. I was late for school all the time, which I had no reason to be because my high school is literally like 2 seconds from my house, but I was late most days. And then the same kind of thing started where I would miss like my first class and go into my second, or things like that. My high school was on a block schedule, so I had my classes every other day, and they were 90 minutes long. So my red days I would have 4 90-minute classes, and then on my blue days I would have 3 90-minute classes and 1 90-minute AC lab, or like study hall. So if there were days that I missed the whole day, then I would be like, it's okay, because when I go tomorrow, it'll be a whole different set of classes and a whole different set of students and classmates, and they won't know that I wasn't here today, so it won't be embarrassing. I don't know why I put so much on myself being absent, because I was so embarrassed about missing school, which you would think would make me go, because like if you go, you won't miss it and you won't be embarrassed, and problem solved, right? But like I said, I was late pretty consistently every day and missing school a lot, which led to my grades being And my sophomore year, I was in choir through middle school and my freshman and sophomore year of high school. That was the one class that I like loved, and it was also my first class of the day. So with me being late every day, that's the class I was late for. And when you're in high school and you're doing any kind of elective or you're playing a sport or anything like that, you have to sign a contract, right? Where you're saying like, I won't do drugs, I won't drink, I won't party, like I won't do anything like that, and I'll keep my grades up in all my classes and I'll show up, which I wasn't doing. I was late all the time and I wasn't doing well in school. So my sophomore year, I ended up getting kicked out of choir, which is kind of funny because my dad also got kicked out of choir, but it was because him and his friend were being obnoxious. So it's kind of funny, like the legacy continues. We just get kicked out of choir in this family apparently. I don't know why I keep joking. I'm just like, yeah, that sucked. It was the only class that I cared about, and which obviously I wasn't showing that it was the only class I cared about because I was late all the time and I wasn't showing up and I wasn't honoring that contract. So yeah, when I got kicked out, that was devastating. And that was just kind of the beginning of like really school. Like there's nothing there for me. Like I already hate it. The one class that I cared about, I'm not in anymore. And I didn't feel like anyone was really helping me in school. My counselor sucked. I had a few meetings with her and it was one of those things where like she kind of seemed nice at first, but it was like she only liked you if you were doing really well, and I obviously wasn't, which I feel like it was kind of her job to help me figure that out and help me do better, and I didn't really feel like that is what was happening. So my junior year came around and that was when really hit the fan. Like I said, I was late all the time. That pretty much is consistent and gets worse, I guess, as my years in school went on. And I was missing school more. I don't have a memory of any teachers ever asking me why I was missing school so much. That's a lie. I have one memory my junior year. My crime and law teacher, he was the best. He pulled me out of class to talk to me and asked me what was going on, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. Just kind of like, you know, when you get confronted, it's like awkward. And looking back, I really appreciate that he was checking in with me because he's the only teacher that I remember doing that when I was in high school, which is sad because I mean, I had a lot of teachers in high school and he's the only one that I really remember doing that. I felt really judged by a lot of my teachers when I would walk in. It got to the point where I was embarrassed to be on time. Even though that was a good thing, I felt like it was more obvious than it was when I would show up late because like everyone's expecting that. Again, with the like assuming everyone gave it. Like no one cares. You had 400 kids in your class. No one cares. Like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal, but not to them. They have their own going on. So yeah, junior year wasn't in choir because I got kicked out sophomore year. And the end of my first semester junior year was when my anxiety really kicked up and I started to get depressed. I don't remember any one specific thing that caused it. I think it was just a culmination of a lot of different things. School was definitely at the center of all of it. I also had some stuff going on in my family that probably contributed to it, but I don't want to blame it on that because like I said, there were other things because of school. The number one thing that sticks out to me about high school is that my mom had a meeting with my counselor and my counselor told my mom that I should drop out, which I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure counselors are supposed to do whatever they can to make you stay in school, right? So my mom promptly fired her from having anything to do with me. And we dealt with the social worker at my school who was like an angel, the sweetest thing ever. Thank God. Yeah. So my counselor told me I should drop out, which I remember having a meeting with my counselor. This was after my mom fired her. My counselor, the social worker, thank God she was there, and my administrator. My administrator is like, usually they have them like grade level administrators, but ours were like according to the alphabet. So my W administrator, I guess. And she was in the meeting and I had never spoken to her before, ever. Like, I don't think we'd ever met. I'd seen her around school. We never met. And I want to make that clear because she came in real hot in this meeting and we sit down and it was me and my parents, the counselor, the social worker, and her, and she's standing at the end of the table and she slams her hands on the table and goes, "What are we gonna do?" And I was like, I'm like 17, like don't want to be at school anyway, and you're yelling at me and I can't deal with confrontation. And that meeting, I, you know, spouted all my reassurances that were lies, saying, yeah, I'll do better, I'll come in, blah, 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 blah. Like. And then at the end of my first semester junior year was when my anxiety really kicked up and I got depressed. And school was the number one cause of that. Like I said, I wasn't being bullied. I wasn't anything like that. So I can't sit here and give you a story of how people made fun of me or anything like that. It was genuinely just because I hated school, which is silly because most kids hate school, right? But it was just, for some reason, it was just horrible for me. And at the time that I started to get depressed, there was some other stuff going on, like in my family, that may have contributed to it, but it was mainly because of school. So junior year, first semester ends, and this was the end of 2011. And to this day, every time I see like the year 2011 written out or someone talks about 2011, it like instantly makes me a little antsy. Like I don't know, it makes me very uncomfortable because I was not in a good place. So new semester, so that means a few new classes, right? So basically I have like 2 first days because of the block schedule. So I go the first one, totally fine. Second day, I wake up and my jaw is locked, which is totally random, but like I have jaw issues, and I woke up that next day and that was the first time ever that my jaw had been locked. So, you know, normal reason to be late for things, right, is your jaw is stuck shut. But that made me anxious and nervous, and I was late, which made me anxious and nervous and embarrassed. So I was like, I just can't go the rest of the day. Oh, and by the way, should probably make this clear. You're probably wondering what my parents were thinking throughout me like being late for school all the time and missing school. They knew. It was not a secret. And I don't want you to think that my parents didn't care, because if you know me and you know my parents, that's definitely not the case. I have the best parents like on the planet, and when it came to school for me, there's only so much you... Whew. Sorry. When it came to school for me, I think in all honesty, they just didn't know what to do, because there's only so much you can say or do for a kid who is 16 and sitting on her bed screaming and crying and begging you not to make her go to school, which is what was happening almost daily. So yeah, that's that. I am so beyond grateful for the parents that I have, because if I had different parents who forced me to go to school, which that like isn't a bad thing, but like for me, it just forcing me to do anything is not a good move. Yeah, I'm just very grateful for the parents that I have, and yeah, we'll leave it there. So second semester junior year, that first day of second semester I went, second day didn't go, and never went again. I ended up missing like 6 weeks of school before we got it all figured out and made a plan. And for that 6 weeks I started seeing a therapist who wanted to put me on anti-anxiety medication, and I didn't want to. It freaked me out a little bit to be put on something that was gonna like change stuff in my brain, but that's what I needed, and I'm incredibly happy that I ended up going on it because it changed everything. In that time, my mom was picking up work for me to do at home, and then she would take it and turn it in for me. And eventually we talked to my social worker and we figured out a plan for me to start Missouri Options, which, if you don't know what that is, that's like a alternative option for high school graduation. I'm sure most states, hopefully all states, have something similar. It's basically a program that at the end of it you get your high school diploma instead of getting a GED. So what I had to do is take a government class before I could move on to the actual program, because you have to have like certain required classes, and I hadn't taken government yet. So I had to go to a smaller high school in my district, which was for kids that struggled in high school, just needed some extra help. Maybe they had issues with anxiety like me, maybe they had a baby, maybe they had to work to support their family, anything like that. That was my understanding of it anyway. So I went there and I took my government class. It was just me. It was me and a bunch of students on our own computers doing our own thing. And so I finished my government class. I was in there from March to September of 2012. I started after spring break and finished in September of 2012 with summer in the middle. So I finished that. And then after that, I had to go to another building in my district, and I was there for about 6 weeks, I want to say. And basically, it was basically just the same kind of setup, me in a room with a bunch of kids and a teacher, and we were all on our computers. And I basically studied for 6 weeks to take this test. And I took the test, it was over 2 days, and it was the week of Thanksgiving. So it was Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest was like Thanksgiving break. So I took the test and I passed. So that meant that I got to graduate, and I was finished with high school before the rest of my class. I used to just tell people that I graduated early because I technically did. And of course, when you're that age, you get the questions,
where are you gonna go to college? What are you gonna do? Blah, blah, blah.
and it's always from people that you don't really know. It's like your parents' friend that they never see, or your friend's uncle. Like, it's just weird. If you're seeing this and you know a kid who is about to graduate high school, do not bombard them with questions about where they're gonna go to college. They might not know. Don't bring it up to them if they don't bring it up, because it is a hard question. And if you're someone like me, it's not a question that they wanna answer, especially to someone that they don't really know. So maybe just hold back on that. If you wanna ask them something, maybe say something like, what do you wanna do after you get out of high school? Because they might just wanna work. And when you ask them where they're going to college and they know they're not gonna go, it's embarrassing for them. So that's my little piece of advice if you are someone that knows a almost high school graduate. So I graduated basically in November with the option to walk at a small graduation with the school that I went to take my government class. I initially didn't want to do it because I felt like if I'm not with my original class that I started school with years and years ago, I didn't want to do it, and I also didn't really care. But then like a month before the ceremony, I changed my mind. So yeah, that is my high school story. It's a little different, but yeah, I hope that if you are someone that comes across this and you're struggling with high school, that this might help you a little bit and maybe encourage you to talk to your counselor. Well, maybe not your counselor because mine sucked. Just find someone to talk to and work out a plan, because there are definitely other ways to figure out school. I know school's really weird right now and you guys are all probably online, so I don't know how that's gonna work. But yeah, if you are struggling with school in any way, I definitely encourage you to talk to someone. And I know everybody says this and it's super cheesy, but I'm gonna say it. It definitely gets better. There's so much focus put on high school and there's a lot of pressure that surrounds it. Don't put all that pressure on yourself, please, because it is such a tiny part of your life. There is so much more out there for you. And yeah, just talk to someone. If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, issues with school, anything, just talk to someone. And always know that my channel is a safe place for you guys if you just want to come and hang out. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this video, and give it a like if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button so that you can see what else I post and check it all out. I post Mondays and Fridays, so I will see you guys on Monday. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.